All's my life I has to fight. All's my life hard times like, yeah.
I ain't got a motherfucking thing to lose. I ain't got no mama. I ain't got no food. I ain't got no home. I ain't got shit. So if you motherfuckers want to go, let's go right now. I take all you motherfuckers on. I look across the parking lot of Roosevelt High School and watch a young black boy wearing nothing but shorts and tennis shoes yelling this at a crowd of guys. I was there this past summer working on a mural that said, "Change is coming." It was part of a service project that I was leading for the Mayor's Star Council at 5 South Dallas high schools, steeped in problems just like this. I know the sound of desperation, and I also know what a bad decision looks like from a mile away. And this kid was seconds away from risking the one thing he actually does have to lose, his freedom. And by the time I made my way to where they had started to fight, I noticed something. There were teachers and parents standing around just watching this brawl unfold. I knew that I had to do something quickly. I knew that something had to stop this. So as I'm running towards the fight, break it up! The cops are on their way. Everybody leave now. And as the teachers start pulling the kids apart, I grab the one kid that they were beating on, and I look him straight in the eyes, and I tell him, "You don't know me, and I know that you think that you have nothing to lose. But if you don't listen to me for the next 5 minutes, you are going to go to jail. And trust me, this is not worth going to jail over." He looks at me like nothing had happened. "I'm good, man, I'm good. I just need my clothes." As if he didn't just get beat up. I go and I get his clothes, and they were literally falling apart. His jeans were 3 sizes too big, and his t-shirt, it had more holes in it than his jeans and his jacket. So I take him out to lunch, knowing that he's probably hungry, and I learn that his name is Leonard. He tells me a little bit about why he got into the fight, but a lot more about how he really doesn't care. See, he's going to get out of the hood, and it's going to be pro ball that pays him all the money so he never has to see these suckers again. And after he thanks me and starts to open the car door, he turns around and in all sincerity asks, "Mister, why did you help me?" I told him, "Leonard, I helped you because I am you. When I was your age, I had one hand on the refrigerator door, other hand, fingers crossed, just hoping that something was in there. I was angry that my dad wasn't there for me either, so I picked fights, and I got kicked out of school. And in some ways, I still am just like you. But I got out of poverty. And I'll tell you right now, you won't get out the hood through football or through track. You get out by hitting the books just as hard as you hit the field. And I promise you, I swear to you, nobody will ever be able to take that diploma away from you." I gave Leonard my number, and I told him to call me, text me, WhatsApp me, whenever he needed me. I never forget what it was like growing up poor and desperate as a first-generation American. There were times that our electricity was cut off. I saw my dad beat my mom. And at one point, we were even homeless and had to live with a family sharing 3 rooms between 8 people. And just like Leonard, I couldn't help but bring all of that anger to school with me. And on one day, in 7th grade, someone called me a wetback. And without thinking, I snapped. I could just feel the anger starting to fill my body as I walked across the room and I started to choke him. I was half joking. We were friends after all. But he caught me on the wrong day. And by the time I could stop myself, I heard my teacher yelling, "Christian, take your hands off of him and come here now." I was just playing, miss. I wasn't really hurting him. He's cool. Ask him. I don't care if you were playing. You were not allowed to put your hands on anyone. That's assault. But he called me a wetback. It doesn't matter. I'm sorry, miss. I don't know what I was thinking. I didn't mean to. But just like that, I took my first steps on the school-to-prison pipeline that so many of our poor, angry, and desperate students of color take. A zero-tolerance policy meant that I was going to jail that day. I still remember the cold handcuffs that took away my freedom. I remember the utter humiliation I felt when they walked me through the crowded hall during lunch. And in that moment, I knew I had to be smarter. I had to learn to control my anger. But by the end of 8th grade, I was still struggling. I had been disciplined in every way imaginable, including getting kicked out of school 3 times in 2 years. And in my final week of middle school, my vice principal sat me down and asked me what I wanted most in life. Most in life? I want a family. I want to go to college, and I want to be a good dad. I just don't want to be poor anymore. Well, Christian, you have to make better choices. I know that you don't want to be poor anymore, but guess what? High school is a fresh start. You decide who and what you want to be. I took her advice, and I turned high school into one of the best times of my life, in large part thanks to the emotional and financial support of numerous teachers, mentors, and friends whose family treated me just like their own. I played soccer. I represented my school in national leadership programs. I was even appointed by the mayor to serve on his Blue Ribbon Task Force as Austin Independent School District looked for a new superintendent. And I even served in my senior year as the student council president. But on a long walk to the principal's office that year, I realized all the accolades and leadership roles that I had accomplished may not matter. I was going to have to explain why I was in his office again. Christian, why were you cursing in class? Other students do it all the time. You know that Miss McQuiston has never liked me. It's not just about that. You were kicked out of the basketball game last month. How was I supposed to know that the Westlake player was going to come after me in the stands? All I did was tell him to quit crying after he got fouled. You were caught selling drugs. No, someone in the bathroom had drugs. I just happened to be talking to him when the police officer walked in. I didn't get arrested, did I? You talked about partying during the speech in the Mothers Against Drunk Driving presentation. I'm sorry. I was just trying to be sincere. I told the students that we really need to start holding each other accountable. We've already lost 3 of our classmates this past summer. And I was just being honest about where students are actually drinking and driving. That's it, Christian. Enough is enough. You have got to realize that there are consequences for your actions. I'm sorry, you're no longer student council president. And like all those times before, I could feel the anger start to fill my body again. And there was part of me that wanted to fight back. But I wanted to prove him wrong. I wanted to prove every teacher, every administrator who had ever doubted me wrong. I only had one choice. I had to go to college. I didn't want to be poor anymore. And the one thing that my mother reinforced day in and day out was that education was the only way out of poverty. And I realized on that day that I may never be a typical leader. But I discovered that my experiences, they could make me a powerful one. After I dropped off Leonard on that hot summer day, I pulled over and I cried like a baby. I remember what it was like to feel that angry, that desperate. I never forget being called a wetback or going to jail for my violent reaction. I don't forget all of the trips to the principal's office or being impeached. But you know what I remember most? I remember the unwavering support from my mother and numerous others. They gave me not just the opportunities, but the hugs and the words of encouragement when I needed them most. Now, I love visiting my former teachers and mentors to show them the impact that they made in my life and how I'm trying to honor them through my work. I've dedicated my life to paying it forward, to listening to working with, and to loving on the kids who need it most. I've been blessed to be able to connect students with opportunities from companies like Nike, ExxonMobil, and every major sports league, as well as with influential leaders such as Magic Johnson, Erykah Badu, Michael Irvin, Kendrick Lamar. And yes, I'm still getting into fights. They're just a little bit more political and not about me anymore. And the truth is, unfortunately, there's still a lot of Christians and Leonards out there. So if my story resonates with you, even in the slightest, I beg you, please find a way to support our young people who don't see hope in their communities. It would mean the world to me and the thousands of teachers, mentors, and especially the families struggling every day.